Hey, welcome along to Navigating the Shift. This is Annabelle and Sarah, and we're in a very curious spot in the world at the moment. There's so many things that are powering along, and at the same time, there's this feeling of very, very still. Stillness. It's not stillness in the storm. That's a bit of a cliche now, but it's.
But it is kind of stillness in a storm.
Yeah.
You know, it's raging out there. It's crazy. So when we're recording, it's the 18th in the U.S. and the 19th of November in Australia, right?
Yeah.
And so, there's stuff going on. Politics is being politics. They've got the Kraken coming out. The Sidney Powell, who was the attorney for General Flynn. She's working with former Mayor Giuliani. And they're gathering all this evidence about voter fraud. Mm. And what's really interesting to me is I keep seeing people on Twitter saying, why don't people see this? Why are they not seeing this? It's right here. It's so obvious about voter fraud, about the COVID stuff, all of it. People are like, they're not seeing it. They're not seeing it. Go look at the media they're watching. It's not there. It's not there. What they're saying is it's all good. Biden won. Trump is crazy. Move along. They're not seeing it. It's like there's a different reality over there.
Completely different. And so we're all kind of looking at each other like gobsmacked now. we're like, can't you see this? And they're like, what are you seeing? It's everything you're seeing is nonsense. So it's an interesting spot to sit. If you haven't heard of the Kraken, we have yet to learn a bit more about it, but I'll put in a link here. This was a video from 2009 of some interviews with a lot of the employees at the Kraken and how they were going to use it to simulate supernovas and this kind of thing, because you need an enormous supercomputer to be able to make these kind of simulations. Now, that was a long time ago. That was, 11 years ago. And since then, it seems to have been used for a number of uses. But at the moment, it seems that this has been the computer that's been used to track everything, really, communications as well as the voter fraud. And that a lot of information is on there that will be used to incriminate at least 400,000 people around the world. Just extraordinary tracking abilities.
My concern is kind of for the guys you would say are involved, who have organizations that may be supported by the people we know who we're talking about, that we don't like the bad guys, or been producing information or doing things, but that don't really realize what they're involved with. We're not talking about those people. We're talking about the people who know what this is and know what they're doing.
It's enormous, isn't it? I was watching a video this morning around the quantum financial system and this incredibly detailed version that was put on by the Tank. Have you seen that one yet? What's this guy's name? Steffen Rowe, Tank of America. He's got a kind of a tank voice, but he's hosting a woman called Kim Goguen, and she is explaining, and unfortunately the video kind of starts partway through, so you have no context as to what she's talking about. It's like walking in halfway through a deep lecture on how the financial system works. So she was going through the great detail of the old financial system and how the new financial system does not allow all these many groups to feed off the money of the world before it gets down to the little people. It's incredible the amount of people that get first shot at it. It's like if it was your roast beef, they get to eat all of it, and then we just get to fight over the bone at the bottom. And with this new system, none of them have access to it. Nice. They're all looking for the codes, and it's up to her to give it. She seems like quite a toughie and very intelligent. How she got the job and where she came from, I have yet to find out. But it just really, we don't realize how much that implicates, how much it affects as you go out there. For example, my new work, Drumroll Showcase, for digital concerts, I was trying to fill that up with a few things that I was finding on Eventbrite yesterday. And every single place I looked, are organizations that are affected by those same organizations, so here's a violinist and she's doing a concert and she's sponsored by the Smithsonian Institute, and then here's another one over here, and it's in a hall, it's a Russian lady in a hall in Boston, a pianist, and the hall was saved by the Ashkenazis, so now they owe the Ashkenazis. So I don't know if it's just because they happen to get the front page of Eventbrite, and maybe if I dug 50 pages down, I might find regular people doing things in little venues. That's very likely, I think. But it really showed if all those organizations lose their funding, we're going to need to start distributing the wealth amongst the common people again very quickly.
Yes.
And I think the way Kim was talking was that they've had a number of years now, even back to 2012, that they should have distributed the money by now. They should have given it, and they've done everything they can to talk about helping themselves, and it's never seemed to have occurred to them to actually go, oh, yeah, okay, just release the money that we're meant to be giving, the wealth to the common people.
So who is the them that doesn't realize that just release the wealth?
The top layers of Rothschild, as the Dutch researcher calls it on the Volkerbal channel on BitChute, the IMF, the World Bank, the Dragon families, all the top end. She talks about dragon families, and I'm thinking, well, is that like in China, you have the white dragon family and the blue dragon family, or are we actually talking about reptilian families? I'm not sure, because we moved in halfway through the lecture, and so I couldn't see what was before that. There might be other videos that I've yet to look into, so I will report back on that if I find out. Once she'd done all the details about the banking, she goes, oh, okay, so this is the hierarchy used to be. Enki and Enlil, she says they're dead now, so moving on to the next one. And I'm like, what? And the watchers, and so she's
like
putting
Anunnaki. Were she talking Anunnaki and okay?
So here we are thinking, well, is it possible? It could be, and this was thousands of years ago. But the way she's talking is, look, this is how the financial system was. These ones have gone now, and then these ones have gone, and these ones are breaking down, and these families, most of them are gone now, and so there's a lot more to be dug into. And whether you want to take her word for it, because there seems to be very little information about this quantum financial system, it felt good to me. And I'll send it to you, Sarah. You can have a look too. So we can tune in ourselves and go, well, what does this feel like? To me, it felt plausible, but crazy at the same time, like much bigger than I imagined. Because, you think about finances, get rid of that. And then we've got politicians to think about, well, no, there's this whole hierarchy that's run everything all the way along, and every single one of them can get access to your bank accounts. Every single one of them. So if they don't like you, if your energy is too high, if you are leading people towards the truth, there is so many people that just go, nah, don't make that one, just don't allow that to happen, just make sure that transaction doesn't go through. So for example, for me, there were we'd had, you and I both, Sarah, have had a number of times where we've been so squeezed on money, and there's been maybe twice I've had two big amounts of money that were meant to come through to me, and they didn't come. It's like an electronic transaction from one bank account to another, and 2 weeks later I'm still waiting for the money. So somebody put a stop on it. Did
you ever find out on that one?
No, you never find out who it is. So I kick up enough fuss until I actually release the money. Oh, sorry. Oh, we made a mistake, says the bank, both times.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, where's the money? Where's it been for 2 weeks? And where's my interest on it, please?
No, they've been gathering the interest, not you.
No, I don't think it's anything to do with, well, that's what I thought. Oh, they're collecting interest. But no, they just stop it.
No, not that that's the reason for it, but that's happening. Definitely, for sure. You bet.
Yeah. That there's enough of these, they're not gatekeepers, they're people that have access to the banking system in the back end to make your life hell if they choose. Because if they think that they can make you suffer, maybe that can be useful. Yeah, so if that is on its way out, we just have no idea of the connotations of that as to how amazing that could be, to get rid of all of those people that are feeding off the roast beef, like I said.
Yeah, I guess so, right? Finally, you're not just under the thumb of this huge beast with a million tendrils all interconnected that's just comes from all sides and just. I checked in on the moon recently. People have said before that the moon has historically, or at least more recently, maybe not way back, been sending some sort of codes or something that is sort of a suppression energy toward our planet. And so I was checking it out. It was like, nope, that's done. That hasn't happened for a while yet. That part's over with. So it's like a little bitty bit lifted. So fingers crossed, the rest goes soon. And it is. I mean, that's what this is all about. We have insanity in politics in the world going on right now. And he said, my truth is the right truth. Your truth is the wrong truth. It's like everybody's yelling at each other. You're watching fake news. How can you be so stupid? You're being subjugated by the bad guys. You know, it's like, that doesn't help. Yeah, somebody I know on Twitter just said, wow, my best friend from way back, who's very liberal, and she says, and I'm not political, but I just, generally speaking, we don't talk politics. But before she was willing to join me for Thanksgiving, she wanted to make sure that I was going to listen to her point of view on COVID and lockdowns and how they work and all of that. And basically it was like, come on, let's do this. And she said, no, I don't believe that. And there's a reason I don't want to talk about it. And the friend said, well, I'm not coming for Thanksgiving. Oh. And I was just like, that's so sad. We're letting this insanity tear us apart. And that's the opposite of what we need to be doing right now. This is coming together, unity. Another situation I looked at was a person who had been injured in a tractor accident really badly. I mean, he's had surgery and swelling and been under enforced coma for days. And they're reporting, you know, he's doing this and everybody's praying. And I can just look there and see this beautiful unity and love energy coming together, and just everybody who's praying or sending good wishes and following it and hoping for the best. That this guy, I just thought, wow, you know, this guy has let this happen to himself for this huge purpose, because it's such an expansive, beautiful, warm, loving, unifying energy. This is what we need. So what I've been doing in my mind is to get out of that. But you idiots, what they're telling you on the news is all a lie, right? It's just what we talked about when we were chatting the other day. Is just like, take a step back, that triangle, right? Here's my version of reality of truth. It says this. Here's your version of reality or truth. From up here, we look down at them and go, yeah, they're just different versions of reality. Neither's more real than the other. Neither's more truthful than the other. They're just, who knows? It doesn't matter. None of that matters. They're just versions of reality. And to be in one version of the reality, of this reality, and it's such a surface thing, it's this whole political stuff. It's just out here. It's not even in you, I went and looked at it for my particular relative who's very, very encased. It looks like sort of a gray, translucent, rubbery bubble. And a lot of it's just coming from outside, all the media and wherever it comes from. And every time you get near it and say, well, did you know a third building fell on 9/11? The whole thing goes, danger, 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 push away, attack, run, go. And it's just, and then, wipe the brain. Don't remember that. That did not exist. Move along. It's so strong. And I thought, well, is there something I can do? And the message I got back was, don't touch this. This is not for you. Yeah. So I asked the team, the angels, whoever, I said, if it's appropriate for this person, can you please work on softening, deleting this? Or not deleting it, but, working away at it a little bit? Because the thing is,
massage the rubber.
Right, just no, I'm not touching it. Every time I get near it,
no, they can.
Zaps me. Yeah, they can. Right. And the thing is, and people wonder, like, why can't they just see this one thing about COVID? You know, the CDC isn't testing for the flu this year. Hello. The test they're using now, which is a mouth swab, is not used for this. That's only used for the flu. Hello. Every time that comes up, that's a threat to the whole system. Because if that's possibly a lie, the whole rest could be. And boy, it's shut it down, close it off, throw them away, distance, don't go to Thanksgiving, you know, whatever. It's way more than, why can't they just see this one thing?
They can't see the one thing. Yeah. You know, I've been thinking about your triangle a fair bit and looking at 2 points of view, but at some point the truth must be delivered to them or us.
That's the question. Or us.
Or
right?
us. And somebody's going to have to concede, right? Someone's going to go, holy crap, I had this wrong.
Right. And for me, it's like at some point the truth has to be delivered, still carries some juice, some emotion. So there's sort of a point where I just mentally said, there's some point when my version of reality needs to affect them. And it's like, maybe that isn't really that helpful. I mean, I that's one way of looking. That's from like way above the triangle, you know, way up there. But there's just sort of this sense that, okay, maybe that isn't what I'm here for. And of course, on a soul level, none of us are here to pop anybody else's bubble. It's not our job. But then I want to look at, and then let's speculate. I mean, how does this shift? How does this standoff, this tug of war, or whatever you want to call it, back and forth between two ensconced realities, how does it shift? How does it change? How do we get past it? And I don't know. I don't think it can come personally. My experience with personal relationships, if you've got this type of situation going on, one person has to go, okay, I'm going to back down. You don't need to be more loving and kind to me. You're doing fine. To which the other person no longer has to, that's an example, no longer has to respond with, I do all this for you, I do that for you, blah, blah, blah. And go, oh, okay. And the whole thing drops a level. And then somebody else says, well, let me do this. Since you're no longer pointing the finger at me, smacking me in the chest with how I'm doing it wrong. So that, I see that. How does that work out? But how does that play out in the world, or at least, in the world? How does that play out?
So that kind of negotiation will happen, definitely. But I guess, when you think about how you and I slowly learnt the stuff, and we had the same, we're like, come on, this is nuts. And then you read a bit more and you read a bit more and you read a bit more, and maybe it is right. So then you go through all the grieving process, right? All the emotions and the crying and the anger and the hopelessness, and you run through all those emotions. That we've done that already. So it's not as if they get out of that. It's just that a lot of them are going to have to do it at once their beloved news finally tells them. And I think that they also will take it slowly on the information, unless we get to this 10 days of darkness idea where something just has to happen.
Just smack them.
They're going to smack them. They're going to knock out the internet and the phones and just feed to you the truth. And we assume it is the truth, right? And then everybody's going to have to run through those emotions quite quickly. And I think that is, if you think over the years, the amount of times that we've been told our job is to keep the platform steady, to keep things calm. We also have our little elbows with the people that we love, our family and our friends, and they're still telling us that we're speaking nonsense. But we're going to have to keep the platform steady for everybody. And that's quite a job. Yeah.
Well, if we look at it from the point of view of it's, it's all a movie, it's already been determined. And from, up above that triangle, that's a pretty obvious, that's a given. It's already been determined. The outcome is there. I can feel it every day. But from that point of view, then, and also looking at historically, it seems like it's always been tried to be as gentle as possible, the shifts. So I don't think that 10 days of darkness is going to happen, because that would be very dramatic and traumatic. But I think it could be coming through the legal efforts of Giuliani
And
and
Sidney
Powell.
Mm.
Yeah, that, you know, something might happen that would just say, okay, somebody's getting busted, or somehow, I mean, the last time something tried to come out in the New York Post, it was just like slammed, stopped, you know, Twitter shut them down,
Yeah,
all of
that's
this
right.
stuff. And now the New York Post is doing controlled stuff. So I don't know if that was a real effort or just to show the response,
Or
but
testing
I think at some
the
point,
waters, you know?
right,
Yeah.
if it is under control, somebody in the mainstream media is going to have to say something about these legal actions that are going on. It just has to be done. And I have no idea who's going to be the person to do it, but somebody has to, because that's the only way to get into that bubble.
Yeah. The way that they do it very gently as well is playing innocent, I think. So I think I mentioned once before talking about this panel of women on a breakfast show, and they're like, oh, maybe the COVID numbers aren't correct. Wow. On camera, that they'll try and make, well, we're just taking it from our sources, you know. Then that might actually be easier. I mean, we'd like to blame them, and we don't know how much they are to blame. Literally, if they are the ones that I've spoken to on media forums when I've actually gone in there and taken part in these forums, they are ignorant. They really do believe their sources. So how can you blame them and say they're baddies and it's all deliberate when they honestly think they're doing a really good job? You know, so playing this innocent role might be a good way, I think, for the audience to go, oh, wow, maybe that's not right. Maybe you didn't get the right information. And that might be a more gentle way to open them up to the idea. And then they get to play the good guys of slowly educating the public on the truth of it all. And
that shifts the energy of the combatants that we were talking about.
Yeah.
But between now and then, I think the best thing we can do as human souls living in this human reality is to pull back our own desire to push. You know, I've done it. It's like, no, I'm not even going to, you know, I found myself saving little links for things that I'll send this to them one day and they'll get this and that'll do it. I'm like, no, none of that's happening. That is never going to happen. It's a different reality than this. It's not going to come from me. If that helps anybody, I'm really glad. Because we're everywhere. We're heading into the holidays, right? We have Thanksgiving coming up really soon in the U.S. But Christmas, you don't want to be black at each other over Christmas.
No. So Christmas, even though we think it's a Christian thing, but it's actually a celebration that's happened around the world in many cultures that have nothing to do with Christianity. And so this idea of peace on earth and goodwill to mankind might be the best way to put it. Still stands, and may we all stand up and say, yes, it still stands, and let's I'm using stand a lot. Let's stand by that. Make peace on earth. Let's unify together and offer goodwill to all mankind. I think we have to keep
all right. So one last thing I wanted to comment on is just looking to the sky. If you don't have any clouds, all around the world, you'll see this, is sort of the beginning of getting close to the solstice, right before the actual solstice, when we have the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. It hasn't happened since the 1700s. And the next time a conjunction, not a conjunction, but this close, because it's literally 6 minutes apart. So if you think of astrological wheel as a clock, each hour has 60 minutes in it, right? And then each minute breaks down. So it's like, right like this is so close. And you can see it's starting to come together. So right now we have, we just had a new moon recently, so it's waxing, it's getting bigger. So if you look up into the sky, in either below, middle, or above the moon, you can see them starting to come together. They're about 4 degrees apart right now, which visually, if you hold 2 fingers up at the end like this, that's about 4 degrees. So that's about how close they'll be together. And you kind of start watching them closer and closer and closer.
What does that mean astrologically?
Saturn represents the rules or structures of this reality. Jupiter represents expansion, changing, getting bigger, going on that adventure. So the two of these coming together, and they're coming together right in the beginning of Aquarius, slightly, maybe half a degree into Aquarius. So they both just moved into Aquarius, which is, of course, the sign of the new age.
Yeah.
So here they are, they're joining up, they're fueling each other. Saturn is saying, okay, Jupiter, look, I'm going to tell you about all these structures and things. And Jupiter's like, I'm going to tell you about all this freedom we can do, and let's work together. A conjunction is always, there's no push or pull, there's no fighting each other. It's always, well, let's work together and make this happen. So all of this activity with Saturn and Jupiter and Pluto, which is the, dig into this stuff that's hidden underneath and let's bring it out and transmute it. Life and death, all that groovy stuff has been happening in Capricorn. So it's been building up, and now they're finally moving into Aquarius. Pluto is still going to be in Capricorn. So we can look at it as being hello. And of course the sun will be there too, because when it's in Capricorn is when you get the winter solstice up here. But it's also going to have Mercury there, which is all about communications and thoughts. So that means there's going to be communication about it. Things are going to be happening. And I think it presages the changing of the great clock, that we're heading into the new era.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, let's do it in unity. Sounds good.
All right.
All work together. Okay. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.